Are you a badass with money, or do you think you're bad with money? Well, in today's episode, I'm going to talk about ways that I've increased my money confidence through learning through the book, You Are a Badass with Money by Jen Sincero. Welcome back to the podcast, and thank you for being here. Appreciate you. So money is a subject I decided to talk about more on this podcast, and I'm looking to mix between health, relationships, and money, because I know those are the three dominant areas in life and they can all impact, and it's vice versa. It's kind of like a bit of a how we feel about ourselves impacts those things, but then how we get all of those things can impact how we feel. But it always starts from the inner world that I've discovered for myself, and how we see ourselves, the world, and other people, and those generate our results. But specifically, I want to talk about money today in this episode on Wednesday. So there's many books I've learned and many different teachings around money. And I'm not a billionaire. I'm not going to sit here, and I'm not a multimillionaire, right? So I want to talk about what I've been able to implement to help my money situation. Because I know a lot of us struggle. We think, the economy's tight. There's lack of opportunities. I always seem to get back to zero. Definitely been there many times. And it can be really frustrating, right? And also stressful, quite honestly. Maybe you've got those feelings. But this book was really, really good by Jen Sincero when I read it. Actually listened to it. This is one I listened to. Because there's different perspectives people put. So I want to share my kind of like takeaways with it. So here's the first thing I want to share that I learned from this book and have been able to sort of move forward with, or how I've been using it in my life, was picking a figure of what you want, not what you think you can get. Now, for me, what does this mean? It does not mean I want £1 million tomorrow, right? If I've got nothing, right? That's not it. But it's like, okay, what feels exciting to you? Like, and setting yourself a target, like in the next few months. So then if you're like, well, I guess I can make a couple of £1,000 in the next couple of months. And you're like, yeah, that'd be nice, but it's not really lighting you up, but you're limiting yourselves. Just like double it at least, or triple it to something that you think is exciting and a bit out of reach, but it's like, it's also not like, I think I can only get this. So it's something that's drives you, that's going to excite you. That's really important. Now, the thing is, I've set myself like some quite big targets in the past and not hit them, but I did accumulate a certain amount of money. Like I remember doing this a couple of years ago, and I was like in a sales role, and I was like, I'd love to make $10,000, not pounds, because I was working for an American company. So I wanted to make $10,000 in a month. And I didn't quite make it in that month, right? But I made about, how much did I make? About 8.5, something like that, in the month from what I was earning, right? And as a result, I was like, that's quite exciting. I'm proud of myself. I could have beat myself up, but no. Now, what would have happened if I went, let's say, making $4,000 or $5,000, depending where you are, might be very good for you, right? But if I set myself, say, $4,000 in a month, and then I'm like, I probably could make that, and it'll be all right, and I'm not very excited by that, I'm going to kind of limit myself, really, as opposed to setting something bigger that's a little out of reach. And even though I missed it, it was okay, right? I mean, setting yourself something that you are excited by, that's the first thing. And there's a phrase also in the Think and Grow Rich movie. I remember Bob Proctor, the late Bob Proctor, said, he says, most people go for what they think they can get, not what they really want. So think about what you want, right? And by the way, your big picture, like what you want overall, if you want to be a multi-millionaire, billionaire, zillionaire, great. Set yourself that at the top. That's exciting. That's amazing, right? But no, within your next target, it's really great to focus on something that's exciting to you. That's the first one. The next one is what you can and can't afford is in your mind. Now, this does not mean going out and buying a jumbo jet tomorrow. What it means is I see this in when people invest in themselves in growth. And I've made things happen in my investments into my growth that was like on paper, mathematically then, I didn't look like I could do it. And the sensible, logical person in me would have gone like, no, I can't do it. And I'll do it in a couple of years when I got the money, which I'm glad I didn't do that option. Now, be sensible. Like, and again, I'm not a financial advisor for any of this. Use your own common sense, of course. But like, no, like if something's like, $500,000 to invest in, and you've got like in total, like all your savings, all your money, you've got like 50K right now, and something's 500,000, obviously don't invest in it, right? We've got that, right? Unless there's some extremely ridiculous payment plan, which that wouldn't happen for a 500,000 thing, right? But it's if something's within reach, but it's a little bit uncomfortable, it's just in your mind, I've jumped into things. I was like, I never thought I'd be in that. It's like, how do I make that happen? Even when I had no money, and then I've made it happen, borrowed some and had a sensible payoff plan, or, there's all sorts of different ways. People borrow from other people. And I'm not saying get into a habit of that. And again, definitely not any financial advice, but when you say I can't afford it and you stop your brain at that, that is the limit, right? That's limiting yourself. You cannot go any further. I see this with the people, quite honestly, I see stuck in personal growth. Price comes up and it's $2,000. We're just talking, $2,000. I appreciate some people, that's a lot of money. But if it's something you really want, and it's maybe I've seen things in a $2,000, $5,000 offer, people immediately, I'd love to do it, but I can't afford it. That's where they are straight away. Kind of mentality is not going to help you if you want it. If you don't want it, don't buy it, of course. Right. And I've done sales and I'm always it's got to be a right fit for them. And I will challenge people when they get into their old money of oh yeah, I can't do it. Right. When actually the most resourceful people will make it happen. But when you put a block and saying you can't afford it right now and then, that's always going to limit you, because you're telling yourself you cannot afford certain things. Be very careful. You can say something like this currently is not in my bank account, and I'm creating a very good plan to make this happen. If it's something you really can't with all your options do. But yeah, just when you say you can't afford something in your mind, and that's the immediate defense you go to, just become very aware of that. If not, how will you make the money? How can you make it work right now? What other options? If you look at people like Tony Robbins, he went to something over 10 banks to get a $12,000 investment, which is probably about $80,000 today. I'm not good with conversions and stuff, to get a loan as a 17-year-old, right? Walt Disney got rejected by hundreds of banks, I believe that was. Just kept going, right? They're resourceful, they're creative. They did not say I cannot afford it in their mind, and that's how they become multi-millionaires, right? Okay, number 3. So when I've been creative and thought, how will I make this happen? Will, as opposed to I can't afford it, different way of thinking. Okay. And even if it's something you can't do right now, but it's how will I afford in the future? I've done that as well. Okay. The third point as well is really important. No, it's bear me on this one. Don't deny where you're at. Okay. Running away from your bank account, not looking at your current statements, even though I said be resourceful, make things happen, which I definitely agree with. Know where you are, be very accurate, right? If you are so badly in credit card debt and you just need to sort that out, you need to look at those numbers and figure a way to sort that out, right? Jumping into something else at the same time is not going to help, right? Unless it's something that's really going to help you make money, right? Let's look at that one. So don't deny where you're at, because progress comes from the truth, and you have to know where you are to move forward. Progress comes from momentum, but you have to know where you are to move forward. So if you're denying your numbers, you're not looking where you are, that's just going to cause more stress and impact on you. So be very accurate with where you are as well. And it's not saying you're going to stay there, but you need to know where you are right now as well. Be very honest. Say, okay, I'm struggling my overdraft, or I got zero. I got a lot of taxes to pay. We'll realize, okay, how much you need to pay, when do you need to pay, where are you? It's okay. You see these multi-millionaires, billionaires get into debt. Donald Trump, whether you like him or not, got into significant debt. Yet he's now a billionaire, right? It's not about, you don't want to get into debt deliberately or bad debt, buy stuff you don't need, all that kind of thing. Of course not, right? And again, you can only know what's right for you. But you've got to be honest with where you are before you can move forward, right? So that's another point I'll mention. Number 4, you got to decide you want to be wealthy and you want to be rich. In your mind, you want to decide you want a better quality of life. Now, I'm always working on it. I'm working on my resources, on my net worth constantly, right? And my savings, all these kind of things. But I decide that I want to make money. I decide I'm going to be creative. I decide I'm going to charge people for certain services. And do you know what? Like, one thing I do is for some podcast guests, like I have put a charge against it because I'm very fortunate. I've got so many guests coming, right? And a lot of people say no. And a lot of people, more people, not a lot, or more people starting to say yes to paying a fee to come on because I decide I'm worthy of abundance. And in some cases, I can charge for a service, right? I've done that with clients, right? I decided I was charging people thousands for coaching because I had invested a lot into me and I've accumulated a lot of value in my life and I value myself. You've got to decide that you're worthy of being rich or wealth or growing into richness and wealth. And then the final one I want to share is what I learned from this book is don't split your attention too much. It's very, very difficult to do. Admittedly, it's a very key one. Why it's difficult? Because in this day and age, there's so much distracting us, right? It's like, okay, do this, do that. This is the best scheme. This is the best strategy. This is the best way, right? It gets so confusing. You being confused as me. But yeah, you get to decide to be rich. That's a previous point. But don't split your attention too much. Be like, right, I'll do this, do that, do that. Focus on your main way now. You may hear about these billionaires having multiple pots and all these investments. Yeah, because they got rich going one way and then they built momentum from there. So focus on like a specific way. And by the way, if you got a job and you want to do something on the side, yeah, that's like kind of two things, but you got to do your job and then focus on one main way on the side, right? For me, it's like podcasting. I love podcasting and there's different, people come to me for like coaching, these kind of things as a result. So focus on one main way. Like mine is just podcasting. I love it. Right. And then opportunities come from that way. But I don't try and write, I've written books, but when I write a book, I'll just focus solely on writing the book, for example. I don't go like, I'm podcasting and now I'm going to be a painter. Now I'm going to be a singer at the same time. Like that would just overwhelm me and exhaust me. I'm like a podcaster and then some opportunities around that come up. Even though there may be a few opportunities like sponsorship, affiliates, people paying to be on my podcast, coaching clients, all these kind of things, right? Or maybe paid courses that I've done. It's kind of one main way. It's my podcasting that I'm focused on for making the money. Okay. So don't over complicate it and split your attention too much as well. So that's what I got for you today on Wealth Wednesday. So I appreciate you being here. So these ways that I summarize again, just to summarize again, pick a figure you want, not what you think you can get. Number two, what you can and can't afford is in your mind. Don't limit yourself by saying, I can't afford it straight away and then give up. Think, how am I going to afford it? Or how will I make it work now? Or how will I make it work in the future? Don't deny where you are. Be very honest with your numbers. You're not going to stay there, but you got to start with honestly taking a stock account of where you are. Number four, you got to decide to be wealthy and rich in your mind and become that person and appreciate your value. And number five, don't split your attention too much. So thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you for being here. And remember to lead with your heart and not with fear.